Hi everyone, happy Magnificent Monday. Hope everyone is doing amazing today. We are just getting started here. So give me just a second as we have everyone starting to come in. Hopefully everyone has had an amazing weekend. We've got so much good stuff to share today. We have Candice coming on to chat with us. We are streaming live on Facebook. Hopefully everything is working out today. With technology, so it's Monday, so everything is going to fall into place today. Good morning, Riman. And as always, anyone that wants to go ahead and come on to video with us, if you want to be a video participant, definitely raise your hand within the chat and we will bring you on video with us. So I am super excited about today. We have Melissa coming on. Hi, Candice. Good morning. For those of us in Pacific time, it is morning. Those of us other places around the world, it might be a different time for you. I know I got a message from Dirk. Big shout out to you, Dirk. I did get your message that starting next week, we are going to be in the middle of the night for you. So you'll just have to catch the recordings. Dirk was one of our special guests from South Africa that was with us a few weeks ago. And the time zone is a little wonky for him. So as we get started, welcome, Ward. We haven't seen you on video in a while. I'm excited you're here.
It's been a while.
Hello, and you're in an office.
I am back to work.
It's great, great, great. I'm excited for you. Look like you got a new haircut and everything. It's a great Monday.
I did, yes.
Good stuff. Good morning, Melissa. So I'm going to do a terrible job of introducing Candice here in a minute, but let's start as we do. I'm going to let her take over. But as we do every Monday, we are going to start with gratitude. So whether you are on Facebook watching us live or whether you are here within the webinar, if you want to ever participate in the webinar, just send us an email. It's in our newsletter. You can register to attend live with us in the webinar. We usually get the majority of our viewers just watching live on Facebook, but definitely send us a message if you want to be included in the live version with us. And I'm just checking my audio settings. Can you guys hear me okay? Awesome. So we have so much good stuff to chat about today, but let's start with gratitude. Let's start with, what are you most grateful for that you have experienced over these summer months when it comes to your own personal growth and development? What are you most grateful for about your own personal growth and development just over the last couple of months of this summer? Kind of as we did a wind down from the school year, and then we had this, I want to call it a quote unquote break, because I'm not really sure that it was, it definitely wasn't a traditional break. Even though some of us may have traveled, it's still just a very interesting time to, one, be traveling, and two, be trying to make the best out of a very interesting time of life that we are in. So go ahead and either type in the chat, Melissa, if you can watch the chats on Facebook, that would be awesome. And then for those of us that are on video, let's just go ahead and share out loud. So Ward, do you want to start? What are you most grateful for about your own personal growth and development?
I am grateful that I had time to reconnect back to my musical roots and have time to get back to woodshedding on the piano and writing. And so I'm grateful for the time.
Love it. Love it. And you used a phrase that I don't play piano, that I'm not familiar with.
Woodshedding?
Yes.
Basically, woodshedding is practicing, is a slang for practicing.
I love it. I learned something new today. I appreciate that. It's fantastic. Candice, what about you?
Yeah, I feel grateful for like space. I felt like I had some space to rethink like how I want to move forward in my business and like in what ways, like where are there gaps that I can actually fill because I had this space to think about that, and I felt good about that, and I came up with ways to serve more people that I probably wouldn't have had time to do, if I
Love
was
it.
still grinding.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I love that. Love it, love it. Mel, what about you?
I just have a lot of freedom in my life and I like it. I'm just grateful for my freedom. I get to work and play and I'm coming back to Vegas this week and it's like, yay, I get to go back to Vegas and I'll be there for a week, but I get to work remotely wherever. So I'm super grateful to be able to take my laptop and work anywhere from the world and it's great.
Yeah, it's
I have
awesome.
no attachments. Beautiful.
And I remember when you got that tattoo, non-attachment.
Yep.
And really like working through that. And that's a lot of what we're going to chat about too, is kind of working through those things when you have this goal and really making time for yourself to achieve it and what that looks like. And Candice is a great example of doing so. For me, what I am most grateful for over this time is really being able to, like you all have said, is like slow down a little bit. But for me, it feels like I've almost sped up my brain. Like I feel like I've 10 times my learning and 10 times my my own personal growth in over these summer months. And I believe that it's because I've started reaching out and asking for help. And so it's not just about what I personally can learn on my own. It's about what I can learn connected to everyone else, and then their learnings, and then their learnings, and then their learnings. And so, speaking of, sorry to call your tattoo out, Ma, but to everything that Melissa learns, I'm learning alongside her. Everything that I'm learning, she's learning alongside me. And so as you grow your teams, as you grow your tribe of like-minded people who are on this path of living a conscious life and becoming edupreneurs, really expanding our edupreneurial mindset, it's really important that you actually grow that tribe with intention. And that's really going to be the focus of our call today. And it was one of the things that, as Candice and I were catching up last week, really stood out to me in her journey to become an edupreneur. And she reached out when she heard about the program that I was doing. And she and I met through Bloom, our co-working space, and an amazing co-working space in downtown Vegas full of incredible women who are pushing boundaries on going, there's got to be a better way, and they're finding a way to do it. And they're finding a way to make a difference in the world and supporting each other and loving each other through it. It is an amazing co-working space that Shelley has put together. So if you are a female entrepreneur, business owner, and you want to check out Bloom, definitely check out Bloom Las Vegas. And it's a great place. So, and we meet like-minded women. So Candice and I connected, and we've chatted several times over the last couple of years. And last week she was like, hey, I don't know if you knew that I used to be a teacher. And I was like, I actually didn't. Crazy enough. I don't know how I didn't know that. She's like, so I love what you're doing. And she started sharing her story, and I was like, oh my gosh, you have to come on and share your journey about where you were as a teacher, why you even got into education in the first place, and on into where you are now as an entrepreneur, really making a difference in the world from this place of deep-rooted passion and purpose. So with that, Candice, welcome to our call. I'm super excited you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm super passionate about education. I have been for my whole life. Really, my mom said that I wanted to be a teacher since she remembers me like ever saying what I wanted to be in life. And I still believe I am a teacher, just in a different way. So I'm happy to be here with y'all today.
Fabulous. So tell us a little bit about your career as an educator.
Yeah. So I actually, I was a Teach for America core member. So I worked in underserved areas and in communities with students of color. And so I did that for 7 years. I taught middle school English and history, taught 6th, 7th, and 8th grade throughout my career as an educator. I got to do some really cool stuff with my students. We went on a trip to Costa Rica, which was amazing, taking my kids out of the country and doing some exploration. I I once taught this technology class where I taught my kids how to like build little websites, and one of my students built a website for his aunt who did hair, so people could make their schedule their appointments online, which like wasn't a big thing back at that time, you know. So it was like it was a huge deal. And he was like, my auntie bought me a pair of Jordans. I was like, you could have got two at least, you know, like the value of that website. Like you could have at least got two. But just, you know, teaching kids how to just step into their own passion and do the things that they love to do. I loved watching that. That was my favorite part about teaching. My not so favorite part about teaching was like not having any freedom or flexibility with my schedule and working all day and night was, or it felt like, you know, like leaving work and then coming home and doing work. But I love to be able to see my kids grow and try new things and explore the world. And I got to do that. I got to do that in South LA and here in Las Vegas as well.
That's great. That's great. So you mentioned the freedom piece being missing. What else was missing for you as an educator?
I felt like maybe I was a little bit more innovative than my team was ready to be. And I really knew that it was important for our kids to like have access to technology, and in the communities that I was working in, that was a challenge. Like we didn't have textbooks. We didn't have paper at one point. Like, so having a laptop was asking a lot, you know? And so I think that I felt like my innovative spirit was kind of being stifled. And it was not just about money, but just about like, maybe like a misunderstanding of each other. Like I knew that these things were going to help my kids be successful in the world. And I knew that my kids could, if you can make a website, you know, you can make money already right now, you know, you could buy that laptop. But like, I would think in those kind of terms, and my school and my administrators were not ready to think about that. And, you know, I'm sure they had their own passions and things that they were, you know, doing to help. But that was mine. Like I really like to help people figure out what they wanted to do. And I really wanted my kids to know that, okay, they're not going to give us the tools. We'll figure out how to get them, you know? And I did. And there were lots of cool donors that I was able to connect with who like donated stuff to my classroom. And I was really, really fortunate for that. And like cool projects that my kids did to get like money for our classroom and stuff like that. But I just was always thinking about my classroom as like, kind of like a business. Okay, like they're not going to give it to us. How are we going to make it happen? I just had that spirit about me all the time. And my kids were so down to do whatever we needed to do, you know, and show off a little bit because they had so many skills and talents and they wanted to show people and they wanted people to come to the classroom and see the things that they've created. And so, I don't know. I think those things were missing for me, like the innovation I felt really stifled, and then the freedom for sure.
So as you kind of watch this evolution of education happening due to the natural evolution of education, but also the pandemic kind of throwing us into this new world where a lot is happening digitally because it has to. So what are your thoughts on where education is going and where you see it needs to go?
Yeah, I feel bad that it had to happen in this way, that we had to like let something huge like a pandemic be the thing that makes us rethink how we operate in our classrooms. But I think that this is a long time coming. I think that, you know, another reason that I left was I just feel like we didn't have to teach kids in this way that was, you know, from 7 to 3 every day and then more after that, you know, like there had to be a way that was like more aligned with how people like actually live life. And I just felt like that was so constricting. And then just like our classes, like that felt really constricting. And I just wanted my kids to have like more space and like more freedom in their learning, you know, more choice in their learning. And I feel like with this, it's an opportunity to really rethink how our kids access learning, how they choose to learn. Like, are they able to learn in a style that works for them? And I know that this is not going to be perfect right now, but I think that generally our, you know, education the world of education is going to rethink how we operate and how we move forward. And I think that that was much needed, and had this not happened, might not have happened, right? Like, we've been learning in this way for, you know, almost 100 years now. And like, that's not, I don't know if that's moving our kids forward or not, you know, or
Right.
preparing them for what their life is actually going to be like.
Yeah. And so for those of you that are watching, how many of you have felt that like there's got to be a better way? Like, how often do we as educators, and those of us that are passionate about the world of education and really making it serve our kiddos, how many of us have felt, God, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. And that is that edupreneurial mindset. That is the spark of it. That is we know that there's got to be a better way. And I don't know an educator out there that hasn't had that thought out of, you know, the last 10 years of working exclusively with educators, and the conversations that I've had, and the amazingly vulnerable conversations that I've been lucky enough to have. It's like we are ready to go, no more.
Yeah.
No more stifling what learning should be for our kiddos and what freedom is for us as educators. And so Candice, talk a little bit about how you made that transition and actually left teaching and what that was like.
Yeah. So I left teaching. I was actually, you know, in the classroom, and I was excited about some of the things that we were working on. We actually did, I don't know, we did this thing in my classroom where Google had a thing at one point where they did 20% time. So 20% time you can work on like your own personal projects, right? And so you don't have to do what the boss told you. You can like be creative and work on your own projects. So we did 20% time. So every Friday was my kids' 20% time. And so on Fridays, they got to work on their own projects. And like at the end of the quarter, the end of the semester, they would do presentations, and like parents and people would come in and they would like see what they did during their 20% time, which pretty much could be almost anything. And that was really cool. But the great thing about it was that it brought a lot of like donors to my classroom, a lot of like people who wanted to see like, what are these students able to create? Cause like, or is this some bullshit that she's just giving them free play on Friday, right? And so, so they came in, sorry, I don't know if we can cuss on here. So anyways, so people would come to my classrooms for those presentations, and they would see my kids doing amazing things that they wouldn't even have thought of, or like building things or creating cool stuff. And because they were coming to my classroom, Teach for America started coming around too, which is an organization that I started teaching with, and you do 2 years with them. And then after that, you're an alumni. So I was, you know, I'd been an alumni for 5 or 6 years at that point, but they started coming to my classroom to see what I was doing. And they just asked me if I wanted to chat one day and have coffee. And I thought they were going to ask me to like, you know, help them run a training on a Saturday. And then they ended up offering me a job. And they're like, we want to see more of this in our classroom. We want it in our classrooms, and we want, you know, a little bit more innovation. And we have this position that we think you'd be great for. So I transitioned from the classroom to working for Teach for America as a coach for teachers, essentially. So I was coaching teachers on how to, you know, provide more freedom and flexibility in their classrooms that allowed students to really shine and really like, you know, figure out their passion. So I was doing that, and eventually became a director at Teach for America. And it was great until it wasn't. Like, it was my dream job, actually. Like, I was like, this is exactly what I wanted to do, because I felt like I could have more impact. So if I was, you know, then training 30 teachers, like these 30 teachers could then take this down, and like that effect felt really good to me. But then I felt like I was getting too radical for them. Like, I was like, okay, I know you hired me for this, but now I want more. And it's just a theme with me, I guess. Like, I'm always trying to learn something new. I'm always trying to push the limits. And so I felt like I was getting maybe a little bit too radical. I felt like they were just like, all right, slow down. This is a little bit much. And I was with them for 5 years. And what ended up happening was some of the teachers who I was coaching through Teach for America were like, hey, can you like actually have like a yoga business on the side? Can you do the same coaching you do with me, but with my yoga business? Or can you do the same thing with my t-shirt business that I want to start? Or I'm trying to start a robotics club, and I know that's not exactly in our scope, but can you help me with this? And I was like, sure, like for $50 or something, like it's like for $100, I'll help you do it. And I realized, like, wow, when I actually got to choose the person I want to work with, and I choose the project that I get to help them on, I'm even more passionate, I'm even more on fire, I'm even more lit up. Then I realized that other people are doing this for way more money than that. And that like it's actual skill that people need. And I just didn't even understand that that was someone's job. You know, when you're a teacher, all your friends are teachers and y'all make the same amount of money and y'all are happy when you get that same raise every year. And that's it, right? You're like, yeah, I'm never going to make more than 60 grand a year. Like, just never. That's just not a thing here, you know? And you're just like content with that. But when I started just like making a little bit more money, like $500 a month extra, $1,000 a month extra, whatever, just doing something I loved and was passionate about and like choosing the people I wanted to work with, I was like, what if I did this all the time? What if my work always felt like this? And I never felt like I had to stifle myself or tone myself down or, you know, not be so radical. Like, what if like that's actually the purpose, or like that is the thing that's going to help me propel forward? And I didn't have anyone telling me these things all the time. And so one day I was just like, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to be scared. I'm not going to like live in fear. And also there was a weird thing about my identity. I felt like I was going to lose my whole identity if I left education. Like I had worked my entire life, right? I went to school for this. I always told everyone I wanted to be a teacher, and I was, but I went to school for this. I got my master's degree for this. Like I spent all this money, all this time, all this energy into being an educator. And if I left, like who does that mean I am? Like who's left, you know? And so that was really hard for me. And then I did feel like some of my educator friends were kind of like disappointed or like they couldn't understand, or like maybe they thought that I thought that what they were doing isn't good enough. You know, just like this weird tension between us because of just, you know, different trajectories and different paths. And like I always will have respect for teachers, always. I know what that's like. I felt that, you know, and I know how much work and energy and effort goes into that. But I just knew that for me, I couldn't do it anymore. And so I made a backwards plan. I was like, okay, in 6 months I'm leaving. This is what this means. This is how much money I have to save. This is how many clients I have to get. This is like, whatever. I made a 6-month plan. I took off all my vacation days. I was like, okay, those don't count as days. I like literally made this calendar that was written out. And I was like, okay, I'm going to leave in 6 months. And, you know, started kind of preparing my teammate who I knew would be a great person to take over my role. And started preparing her a little bit for taking over my role. And I did it. I just left. I counted down. Today I probably would have been like, I don't know. I think that I did the right thing at the right time. But now I would, if I was helping someone else, I'd be like, be a little bit more prepared than me. A little bit more prepared than I was when I did it. But I'm glad I did. And it, you know, it turned out great. And now I am a strategy coach. So I help people, mostly people who are transitioning from a 9-to-5 type job where they have all these skills and talents and they have all this expertise, but they don't quite know how to use it for their own business or for their own company. I help them figure out what that looks like and how to do it. And I basically just get to help people do what they're passionate about, make money what they're passionate about, and still have the freedom and flexibility that they desire.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm so excited for you and your journey and where you're growing to, because I know that this, you know, isn't obviously the end of your career. You're in the middle of it and growing every day and evolving and pushing boundaries. And it's so awesome to see. You touched on a few things that I kind of want to go back to. One of them being what I know as labeled tribal shame. And I got that phrase from Elizabeth Gilbert, actually. It was I think it was a Facebook post she did, and it may have been from one of her books, but I happened to see it on a Facebook post. And it was when I was going through my divorce and ended up seeing this word. And I was like, oh my gosh, that just makes so much sense to me as to how I have felt at different times in my life when I have grown and wanted to change or do something different that felt right to me, but I was getting questioned, or it was almost like this unintentional passive aggressive guilt, whether it was from my family or my ex-husband or whoever, just like making me feel like I was a bad person for wanting something new and different. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what I hear you describing, that you were almost getting the essence energy of. And again, I 100% know that it is not conscious or intentional of anyone to go, you're a bad person, shame on you for growing. Like, no one says that. No one actually intentionally feels that. But sometimes when you're in an environment where someone else is growing outside of what is the norm within the quote unquote tribe, it can feel like they're no longer going to love you. It's almost like an unconscious form of rejection that's going on within the tribe. It's like this person who wants to jump outside is rejecting the tribe, when in actuality, that's not what you're doing. You're just growing and evolving. And it's like, yeah, that's part of me. It's still like, I still love those people.
Yeah.
That doesn't change. But why can't I do this and love these people too? Why can't I do this and then love these people too? And there's, you know, on a logic level, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just this unconscious human behavior that happens. And if we don't recognize it for simply that, it can really stifle us and hold us back. And so did you experience that where it kind of held you back at times?
Yeah, you know, it held me back on my first year. So it's been 2.5 years since I left education. And my first year was really tough because I felt a ton of guilt about making more money than I was making as a teacher and working way less. And actually the guilt stopped me from working with as many people as I could have, because I didn't know, but I was kind of like rejecting the work because I felt bad that my educator friends were working way harder than I was, you know, working way longer than I was. And like, I still had like that comparison, like, if I make this much money, this is how exhausted I should be. This is how,
Right.
you know, this is how tired I should be, because that's like the equation that you're taught, you know? And so I think that my first year, and it wasn't, I don't think, you know, like you said, it's not like they like did this to me. It's like how I was feeling internally and how I know they were feeling like maybe I left them and I was feeling guilty about that. And because of that, like my energy was blocking a lot of opportunity because I felt like undeserving in some way, you know? And I actually went on a retreat, and during the retreat, I realized that like, wow, like I have some like real money blocks, like real money blocks, because, and I didn't know that because I was only around people who, you know, made the same amount as me. Like I made a little bit more than the people that I was working with probably, you know? So, like, but all my friends were like in that same range. But when I went on this retreat, I realized I was around people who made like way more money than me. Right. And I was just like, oh, like I'm blocking all of this. And it's because I haven't spent time with people who make money like this, or it's because I think sometimes teachers have the idea that like rich people are bad, right? Like if you're rich, if you have money, like that's, especially working in like low income communities, right? Like, and I realized like I had to do a whole reframe. Like I didn't know that I was holding on to that idea until like this moment. And then I realized that, and I kind of had to like work on my whole money mindset and kind of surround myself with people who are making more money than me to understand that it's okay. And that's like, that it's okay really, which is such a weird thing to say, but yeah, that it's okay. And I feel like if good people have money, they can do good in the world. Like, I think I'm a good person. And if I believe in education and I believe that our kids should have access to opportunity, if I have money, I could do something about that, you know, in communities that I care about. And so I think it's important that people who understand what's going on in the world, like, are able to actually use their money to make changes, and their expertise and their time and, you know, all those things. And I have so much more of that now, right? I have more time, I have more money, I have more freedom. And like all of those things can allow me to do good in the world in a way that I couldn't in the classroom, you know? Yeah. That maybe are more impactful.
And so what do you see as like that big aha for other educators out there, for other humans out there, regardless of what your profession is? I think we've all gone through that. What is that? What is that shift?
I'd say like do something outside of being an educator, like your music, like be with your people who are doing that all the time, like have another passion outside of it, know other people who are doing things outside of the classroom that you can always, you know, bring into the classroom. But just, I think that spark and that energy and that passion that is like in another realm helps you to become a better educator and like just a better human. And I think when you're doing that, you can like think outside the box and, you know, bring in new ideas and connect with people who, you know, who maybe, you know, that you can collaborate with, that, you know, cool things can happen. But I think just like getting outside of your bubble of just like, oh, my friends are teachers and this is what I do. And I go home and I lesson plan and I sleep. Like, you got to break that pattern. I know I was there for a long time, so I know. But for me, it was like connecting with people. I connected with people like, I did like this Google Classroom thing. And then I connected with people who weren't like necessarily in education, but were in Google, and like learning about that, and like that technology, that passion for technology kind of like took off for me. And then like they were like, oh, Candice is a teacher, we could help her out with this, and like they wanted to help me. And so just connecting with other people who are doing other things, who are hopefully making more money than you, like that's also really helpful. Just so you can see like what's possible.
Right. And it's that, and I don't know if it's an old phrase or a new phrase. It's like the 5 people you surround yourself with,
Yes.
is totally true. It's like, who are your friends? Who is your tribe? And who are you surrounding yourself with? Because that's who you're emulating. Like, all of you are feeding off of each other's energy. And so you're either raising each other up, or you're keeping each other stagnant, or you're pulling each other down. And, it's one of the 3, and it can be a roller coaster. That's okay. But understanding that it's that growing of your consciousness and evolution, where you get to a place where it's like, not consciously going, hey, I don't want to hang out with you anymore.
No, not that at all.
Because I have friends in this life that I've been friends with for so long. I just don't spend a lot of time with them anymore. And it doesn't mean that I don't love them. It doesn't mean I don't appreciate where they're at or what they're doing in their life. It's just the pace that I'm operating at, and the things that I want to achieve. I'm attracting people who are doing the same thing. And so we're giving each other energy, and we're moving faster together. And it doesn't necessarily mean anything's bad or wrong.
Right.
It means that I have this deep rooted feeling in my soul that I have to be part of something bigger than myself. Yeah. And that has been inside of me my entire life. And I don't know where it comes from, depending on your beliefs, whatever that is. But for me, it started, and it's why I started my career straight out of high school and college, pre-med, because I thought that was the bigger than myself. I grew up in a small town. I grew up, with no internet. I grew up like thinking that you become a doctor, lawyer, Indian chief kind of thing. Sorry, that's, old world thinking, right? And that's not all there is to life. Like, you can become so much more. You just have to follow that intuitive drive. And so I love your examples of really following that and just allowing it to happen organically. You didn't seek out necessarily leaving education. No. You sought out just giving to your kids and doing what was best for them, and understanding that when you were doing that, it was what was best for you, and not stifling your own creativity. And I think sometimes educators get stuck there. Is like, I don't have time to do something else. Well, that's not what it's about.
Yeah, but you really feel that way. I totally felt that way. And like, that's very valid. But I know that when I started making friends outside of my educator friends, I was able to expand and grow in ways that I couldn't have.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Ward, as you're kind of listening to this and thinking about your own edupreneurial journey, what's coming up for you?
I like that, we can learn from each other. And I like the fact that having other friends other than educators, you're going to pick and pull and get these wonderful ideas, and you can bring them back to the classroom or the counseling setting or whatever. I was also thinking about how that all of us, well, not all of us, but a lot of us, that we identify ourselves as what we do, and really we're bigger than that. I am not a counselor. I'm more than that. I'm a father. I'm a friend. I'm a son. Right. So, and I think that sometimes that can be limiting. That can limit us, and so that was kind of my takeaway.
Yeah, I love that. I really did realize that so much of my identity was wrapped up in being a teacher that I felt bad. And I felt bad for like like I did something wrong for investing so much time into it and then leaving it. Like that felt wrong or bad, you know, and I had to let go of that idea and come to the reframe that I'm still a teacher. I just teach in a different way, in a way that's more aligned with, you know, my own values and my own values, I guess.
For sure. And when we think about that, and I know at the beginning of the pandemic, it was like a huge slap in the face for so many educators that I've talked to about their identity. I can't tell you how many times I heard, I didn't sign up for this. And that phrase right there, I didn't sign up for this, means that the system has robbed educators of the joy and the passion and the purpose behind why you got into teaching in the first place. Like, think back to when you first started and you first wanted to get into education. It, for 99.9% of you, it had nothing to do with summers off, nothing to do with anything other than, I am meant to help children in this life. I am meant to teach them. I'm meant to keep them safe. I'm meant to inspire them. I'm meant to influence them. I am meant to hear those stories and of those light bulb moments. I am meant to do that in this life. Like, that lights educators up. It doesn't matter what kind of day you're having as a teacher. I watch this time and time again. A student comes in and says, oh my gosh, I got it. The most awful day. And all of a sudden, like, your day is now fabulous because you know that you were a part of unlocking that young mind into igniting their inner genius, as I like to call it. And so as educators, when you think about your identity is not teaching. Your identity is not school. Your identity is not the label of what you're doing. Your identity is connected to who you are and why you do what you do. The why do you wake up every day? We went through that early on in Magnificent Mondays, your personal purpose. And it's one of the first things that we start with in the Educator to Edupreneur Masterclass. It's going through, and it's an 8-page worksheet that guides you through articulating your own personal purpose. Why do you wake up every day? And coming up with your statement. I wake up every day to ... so that ... And so if you can come up with that statement for yourself, that's your identity. That's why you're here on this planet. And if you only attach it to your job title, then you're missing the bigger picture of who you are as a whole human. Because as a whole human, like, you have so much that you offer to this world. And like Candice's example of her journey is so much of that evolution to go, no, I'm a whole human and I have a whole lot to share with this world, and here's how I can do it more. And that's all I hear educators ever want is, I want to do more of what I crave to do. I want to do more of, how can I give more? How can I teach more? How can I inspire more? You can do it by working on yourself and how you're showing up on a daily basis too. And so Candice, if you can kind of touch on that piece as well of your own, and you touched on it a little bit with the retreat that you went to, just what did you do for you that actually helped you grow through these different layers of life?
I think what I did was I got a coach. I got a coach to help me. That was major, someone who was doing something similar to what I wanted to do in my business at the level that I wanted to do it at. So getting a coach was great because it just connected me to a whole new world. Like, I didn't even know that there were coaches online who helped female entrepreneurs. Like, that was not even in my world. When I left my teaching job, I was like getting referrals, and Bloom was a great source of like referrals for me. And I have a networking group that I lead with my best friend here in Las Vegas, and I was getting referrals. So I was like, that carried me through my first year of business. But then through my first year from my coach, I learned that there's like this whole world of people who are doing this online right now. And I felt like a little embarrassed that I didn't know this before, but then I was able to like take my business online and learn new things because she was able to connect me with that world that I just didn't have access to before. And yes, going on retreats and just like learning, committing to my own personal development So I feel like it's like my chosen college, right? Like this is how I'm choosing to get my my credentials, which doesn't exactly exist in this world. I do that by committing to my education, my professional development, and then surrounding myself with people who are, you know, financially at the level that I want to be at and still have the freedom that I want. Because I don't want the money with like the total grind and with no life. So people who like are examples of having both of those things and having that balance that I crave in my life. Those are the things that I've done to help myself. But I think definitely a shift that had to happen was like it's okay to spend money on my own professional development and my own personal development too, because not something that I did before, but I have done that a lot in the past 3 years, and that has really helped me to grow. And at first I was like, this feels weird, because it's like you're not giving money to a college, which for some reason, like, we trust a college, right? Like we trust that they are going to put us on a path that is right. But for me, like choosing the people who I wanted to learn from and then like paying them, I had to think about it in a way that was like that. Like, no, this is part of my personal professional development. It matters. It's going to help me grow. And really it's helped me grow and connect to other people who are also doing things that I want to do and who I can collaborate with and continue to like expand, continue to expand my network. And so those are some of the things that I've done.
That's huge. I love that reframe. We so often think about continuing education and secondary education, college education, whatever you call it, right? Is that you have to pay an institution in order for it to be valuable. And that's sometimes it works, right? And college is beneficial for a lot of people. It was beneficial for me to go for the time that I went. And when I think about, and I did this when I decided to leave Delivering, it was actually right before I joined Delivering Happiness. So this was probably like 2008, 2009. I was actually planning, I had 2 schools that I was deciding between to get my master's in IO Psych, industrial and organizational psychology. And I was like, which one do I choose? And then the opportunity came to help run Delivering Happiness. And, my title was Culture Ops Diva, which was kind of fun, but running internal culture and internal operations. And so I decided to go all in with that and kind of put my master's on hold, thinking that I would go back and do it someday. And then the more I got into that work and the more I started being connected to other organizations, and I ended up being connected to a company called CRR Global, and it stands for Center for Right Relationship. And they have a certification called Organizational and Relationship Systems Coaching. And their program was exactly what I was looking for, because it was practical, it was research-based, it was all of these things. And it was about a 2-year program of an intense, like they said, it's kind of like getting your PhD in coaching. In order, the amount of work that I had to do, the amount of practical hours that I had to go through in recording and doing live coaching and getting critiqued by my coach. And it was like all of these things over this intensive 2 years that was like my first big investment into myself. And to pay, it was almost $20,000 for that program. And then to go and in 2015, go to Bali and get certified as a performance consultant with the Genius Group, and be able to now use talent dynamics and the core values work that I was learning with Delivering Happiness and all of that I was learning and growing. I mean, in the past 10 years, I have probably invested close to, if not well over $100,000. I haven't added it up. I probably don't want to. But
after I did my taxes, I realized it's been like 14 or 15,000 last year on just professional development last year.
Yeah.
But 100% worth it, and it wasn't something that I was doing when I was an educator.
Right.
And
Melissa talks about, those butt pucker moments. When you're going to invest that much in yourself, it is a true, like, oh my gosh, is this going to be worth it? Like,
and it is
going to be my ROI.
Worth it, right? You have to get the value out of it at that point. Yeah.
You get out of it what you put into it. Yeah. And that's true even in college. You could go to college and spend a ton of money and get D's.
Yeah.
C's and D's the whole time, and walk away with 4 years of a party and go, well, that was an expensive party. How many of our friends?
Yeah, totally.
They learned how to party and play beer pong or whatever they learned, right? And so any investment in yourself, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. And I know, Melissa, if you can chime in, like, as that relates to nutrition and your well-being and what you put in, you get out, and how that contributes to the investment in yourself as an edupreneur.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, for me, my journey started when I was 21, when I got in a fatal car accident, and I had to take a hard look at, I was diagnosed with cancer in 2018, or not 2018, excuse me, when I was 18. And 2 years after that, I was in a fatal car accident. And so within less than a 2-year time frame, I was literally and figuratively forced to take a hard look at how I took care of my body. And at that time in my life, I was in a secure job. I got a secure paycheck every 2 weeks. I was in corporate America. I was working for a bank. And ultimately, the scariest thing I ever did was to leave corporate America. And at the time, I owned my own house and I had no financial security. And it was like, well, here you go. What are you going to do? And the reality of it is, the risks that you're not willing to take are the ones that you will regret. But at this stage in my career, it's all around health and wellness. I'm a big proponent. Your greatest wealth is your health, because you can have the great job, you can have the great house, you can have all the things, but if you're not taking care of your mental and your physical well-being consistently and consciously, life will kick you in the teeth. And at some point you will have something physiologically go on with your body and you're like, whoa, what do I do? So for me, it's all about working with my clients on investing in yourself and your emotional and physical well-being. Then you can step up, show up, and speak up out into the world, your best version of yourself. But it starts with you. What do you think about every day? How do you take care of this body every single day? Because this is what you have. This is the most important thing, not anything outside of you.
And how are you paying yourself on a daily basis? And so Candice, as you just, for everyone, like how, like for all of us to think about, how are we paying ourselves first? And we've talked about this throughout the Magnificent Mondays, and we can't reiterate it enough. And so Candice, kind of hearing your journey as well, and investing in yourself and really staying rooted in your passion and your purpose and letting that guide you. What has been that physical, mental, emotional, spiritual well-being journey along the way? You touched on it a little bit.
I lost 30 pounds when I started teaching because I felt like I had time and space in my life to take care of myself, which I know I could have probably as an educator, but I felt so exhausted. I felt so drained that I just didn't. And so I ate like crap and I didn't work out and I didn't go to the gym, and I just got by, like I woke up and I left my house in 15 minutes at 6:30 every morning. Like I just was tired. And so when I stopped teaching, I went to the gym regularly. I started eating right. I started meditating, which is like not in my normal practice. I started yoga, Pilates, all things I'd not done when I was teaching. And it was because I was working less. It's because I wasn't working 12-hour days every day, and I just was able to commit to that. And like over the course of about a year, probably maybe a little bit more, I lost 30 pounds. And it wasn't like my goal. My goal was just to like feel better, like feel energized, and like that all. And I met some cool people along the way who helped me and gave me tips, and like were really, really like just generous, helpful people. Like I didn't know what I was doing at the gym, but met a lot of really cool people who helped me. And I feel like that is so key. Like I love everything you're talking about right now, Melissa. Like, yeah, if I like, who cares how much money I have if I don't feel good, if I, I'm unhealthy. But one of the reasons that it's important for me to have space and freedom in my life is to be able to take care of myself and like do it without feeling guilty about it, because I would be like, oh, like I would think about, I should try something, I should go to the gym, or I should do this, but I'd be like, oh, but I still have that stack of papers, or I still need to get that lesson plan right, or I still need to, do these things that I would choose to do my stuff for my classroom and for my students. And And it probably wasn't always the right choice. I probably could have chosen differently, but that's where I was at that time, you know? And so
And
now,
if I can invite also that too, Candice, like what I want everyone that's on this call listening is that it's not uncommon that people get into education to be of service. So for so long, it had become your norm to be of service and help others, and you prioritized their needs and wants before your own. And it wasn't until you started to say, okay, I'm going to choose myself right now because that's important, then you created space for being of service in a whole different way. So congratulations to you. And that's a big reason why I do this work with Sandy, and I support her, is because it made my heart very sad that, you know, I'm passionate about education, but I'm also extremely passionate about health and wellness. And I'm more passionate about what is our environment for our kids. When our kids are in an environment for 7-8 hours a day, you better believe I want my kids to go into an environment where they're in a healthy environment and what is being modeled for them. So educators, so many of them suffer from lack of energy, being overweight, high anxiety, high depression. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And for so long, that has become their norm, that there is that guilt factor for saying no to be a yes for themselves.
And I almost feel like there's like a societal expectation that teachers don't have lives outside of their classroom. Like, you know, like there's this expectation that like we shouldn't do anything for ourselves. I don't, or maybe we put that on ourselves, but I felt that, you know?
Yeah, it's almost like that unconscious society pressure. And there's so many systems within our world that's happening with, and we're all beginning to feel, due to this unfortunate pandemic, the areas of our lives where we go, hey, that's not working for me anymore. It's giving everyone the opportunity to slow down and go, hey, I want to shift this. And so Candice, if you could give the educators who are on this consciousness journey kind of just your final nugget of wisdom of what you would want them to know, what would that be?
I would say you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of anyone else. So take care of yourself if you're not right now. It matters. The people that you are serving will benefit from you taking care of yourself. So that's one. The other thing is follow your passion and don't let people dim your shine. You know, if you're passionate about something, it matters to you. Like if people don't get it, that's okay. They just don't get it. It's not their journey. That's all right. Like still do what you're passionate about. And yeah, just don't worry about what other people think.
I love it. Love it. And it's scary to do that. It's scary to do that. Yeah. And yet when you care more about what you think and care more about your future vision, that's when you begin to realize it.
And I felt like that's what I wanted my kids to see, because that's what I want for them, right? Like all my kids in my classroom, I want them to do that. Like I want them to have space. Like I don't want them to only be a student. Like I want you to be a full person. Even in this classroom, I want you to be a full person, right? And so I feel like when I was doing those things, I was living life in the way that I want my kids to feel free to live their life as well, you know? So it's just an example of that.
Absolutely. So Ward, what's your biggest takeaway from this conversation?
You made a valid point. Educators were bad. We take care of everybody else, but we don't take care of ourselves. And I'm guilty as well. I think I put on the COVID-19 the last 5 months or so. My biggest takeaway is that it isn't selfish to look after yourself and take care of yourself.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Need to be doing more of that, all of us.
Yeah.
Love it. Ruben, what's your biggest takeaway? You're on mute. Ruben, you gotta unmute so we can hear you. There you go.
When I was listening to you, I just couldn't keep quiet. I was just thinking what I should say because you all are telling whenever you talk, I mean, I feel that, you are talking about me. And I became an introvert. Is that correct? Introvert over the time. Because, I was feeling very, what do you call that? Not accepted. I mean, with time, you experience that as you come to different, maybe countries, so I'm here for the last 14 years. And I should not say that, but, I had to go through a hell of a lot. So with every experience, I mean, you keep quiet and you just give up everything. And finally, it took about 12 years for me to be a teacher. I mean, I'm just telling you because it took so long. I was in New Jersey before coming here. It may be a little too boring for you, but
No.
if I just tell you a little, I mean, for 12 years, I was just doing this and that.
Mm-hmm.
And I could not even teach just pre-algebra here. I mean, I used to help people with calculus about 40 years back. 40. I'm 69 now, and I'm after 2 heart attacks. I got 2 heart attacks.
Oh, wow.
And so I was just day by day, year by year, I was being quiet, sort of ignored, and then you become an introvert. You don't trust anybody. I mean, you don't even trust yourself. So
Ruben, what are you taking away from this call? From like feeling all of that oppression? What are you taking away from this call?
No, as you were talking, actually, I said, how you got over that. I mean, you have gone through all these things, what I was just talking, but you came out of that and you took a decision and you just made that change.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm too trying to do the same thing.
You can do it.
And sometimes, you feel that, now I'm 69 now. And my wife, she's not here. She's in my country. She's, for the last 7 years, she's there. Now, she's asking me, what are you doing? My sons asked me, you don't teach? I mean, you don't want to teach anything? Now, actually, I used to teach, if I may say, I'm 69 now. I'm not in my 30s or 40s. So I used to teach German, French, Italian, Spanish. I mean, I used to work in 3-4 languages. I was paid for 4 salaries. So they know that I'm not doing anything. My sons ask me, you don't even want to teach something? But I always think, I'm a math teacher. So I'm waiting till the school starts and what program they have, depending on that. After that, I will decide, I want to, because I'm a teacher and all my life, I was trying to give something. Even if I knew just a little, I was teaching that. That was my way. And I always wanted to give something, whatever you learned. But I could not do it. But now I'm a teacher and I'm a certified teacher. And so I have something to offer now. I'm too late now, but, because of my health situation and my age, I'll be soon retiring. But what am I going to do with whatever we studied now? You study something and you can't give that, and you just nobody talks to you, nobody accepts you. So, and you become an introvert. It's very hard to express yourself because nobody accepts you. So with all that experience, but now after I join you every Monday, because whatever the work I have, I join you because, I get some inspiration. When I was listening to, Melissa, or now Miss Candice, of course, I'm not very familiar, but I see Mr. Ward, and he talks about music. I was a musician. I used to play guitar, I used to play accordion, guitar, and all.
See, now you two should hang out and play music. That would be awesome.
Yeah, now actually, my both sons are good players. I stopped playing after they started. So they gave me everything. They have given me everything. Now I have that. Yeah. So I'm slowly doing on my own. But I think, what am I going to give? I teach students. I come across so many students. I mean, as Miss Candice was saying, you see the challenge they are facing, and sometimes we cannot do anything. We know that this is what should happen, but we are not in a position to help them. And
Yeah.
even if you get another position to make more money, as Ms. Candice said, I mean, you feel very guilty. No, that's what, it is not for that. You studied, your knowledge is not yours. You got that knowledge from somebody else. So
Yeah, Ruben, I'm going to pause you just in the essence of time. I love what you're sharing. Excuse me. And then
I don't hear you.
so amazing that even, and this is hopefully what I hope you're taking away, is that regardless of your age, regardless of where you're at in your life, and Melissa, I want to give you an opportunity to kind of close the call with this as well before I wrap up, is around, it's never too late to really take control and live your passion and purpose. Because even if you only had one more year on this planet, how would you spend that year? Would you spend it living your passion and purpose? And what would that be like? And would you take that leap of faith for your edupreneurial journey? And so, Melissa, I want to give you the opportunity to kind of talk about the Educator to Edupreneur Masterclass and how we're seeing the value that we're able to bring to the community, the shifts we're able to see in the educators that we've been working with over the past several years, with teaching them the skills and the strategies that are now in this masterclass and in video format, so you guys can watch it anytime. How you're seeing the shifts happen and what that's been like for you to kind of watch the transformation in educators over the last few years.
Yeah, I'm actually, oh, sorry.
I think the biggest thing that I've seen is that they start to realize they have a voice bigger than they ever could have imagined, and that what they actually want matters. Because for so long, they didn't realize what they wanted mattered, and they didn't have the tools or the mindset or the skill set to create that space to achieve that. So that's the biggest thing, is they start to realize what they want matters, and their voice matters, and having the platform to ask for help and have the tools to get them along that journey. And that's the biggest thing, is because they've been in a system for so long, and it's all they've known. And so it's important to help them to color outside the lines. And that's exactly what I've seen, is they're starting to do that. But the most important thing is they've got to be willing to take the risk. They've got to be willing to get uncomfortable and take that risk. And it's like sticking their toe in the water, and they're like, eek, I think I'm ready. I don't know. But the reality of it is more often than not, if you're one of those individuals that just keep your toe in and not stick your whole body in, at some point, you're just going to get pushed in.
Yeah.
And that's just how it works.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we've run a few minutes over our time today, guys. I so appreciate you hanging in there with us and being here on this Magnificent Monday as we get ready to really, for those of us here in the US, launch into this new school year. And I know that our technical school start dates are across the board between August and September across the country. And I just want all of you to know that we're here with you. And we're here to guide you along the way. We are doing a logistical shift just in our time of day for these Magnificent Monday calls for all of you that are going back into whatever your classroom is going to look like in taking care of your students. And so we are going to shrink our format down to 30 minutes. So hopefully you'll be able to watch and listen, and that it won't be too much of a burden, even if you want to watch a recording before you go to bed at night or when you wake up in the morning, is why we want to try to shrink it down into 30 minutes going forward, starting August 3rd. So next Monday, we're moving our time to 3:30 p.m. Pacific time, so that it is hopefully after school hours for all of you, so that you can watch and participate, we would love to have you with us along the way. And we will continue to spotlight more educators and edupreneurs who are really making a difference in the world. Huge thank you to Candice for being here today and for so vulnerably and transparently sharing your story. I know that it's not easy to talk about the challenges that you grow through and the ways that you have overcome them, and just for being a shining example of what you can do when you consistently follow that deep-rooted passion and purpose in your life. So thank you, my friend, for being here.
Thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
Great to meet you.
Wishing everyone a fabulous week and a magnificent rest of your Monday. And we will see you next Monday, August 3rd at 3:30 p.m. Pacific time. Make sure that you are registering for the webinar if you want to join us on video, or we will be streaming live on Facebook. See you all next week.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.